welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that drives F1's worst cars since 2010, so you don't have to. Using the Codemasters games, and you find us 3 rounds from the end of our 3rd season here in 2012, driving the HRT Hispania Racing Team F112. And you join us off the back of an Indian Grand Prix to savour. We've picked up points 3 times this season. A 3rd place back at round 2 in Malaysia, which was a weird AI strategy thing. Everybody pitted at the end of lap 1 and we led and then got caught and managed to defend. We got 2nd place in Singapore, but that's because everybody absolutely fell off the circuit, with the exception of Nico Rosberg, who we finished a lap behind, thanks to changeable conditions. What I thought at the time was the game selecting the wrong tyres, but having watched the footage back since, it was me by accident. And then, last time out in India, we took 9th place, but on merit. We got a great start, catapulted our way forwards, and actually drove cleanly, drove consistently. A couple of minor mistakes that we managed to survive. One small incident with Michael Schumacher's front wing, but a Fernando Alonso brake issue meant that we could overtake the Spaniard and deliver 2 more points for the team. So it's normally the desperate hunt for points, and not this time, as we head to Abu Dhabi, the Yas Marina circuit, before it became the traditional end point of the season, was held in this sort of weird near end. I think in 2011 it was the penultimate round, in 2010 it was the final round, and in 2012, because of the introduction of the Circuit of the Americas in round 19, it is the 2nd from last round. And as you can see, our rivalry with Daniel Ricciardo is now 2-3 because Danny Rick dropped out in India, which meant that we got an easy victory, so we can draw level with a good result here at Abu Dhabi. But let's take a look at the standings before we talk a little bit more about this particular race. Those 2 points mean that we remain 14th, but we pull a little further away from Nico Hülkenberg, who was at one point fighting for points with us. And we pull a little closer to Kamui Kobayashi, but not by much. But it does mean that we are now 23 points clear of our rival Danny Rick. They're in 16th. So even if we don't win on the rivalry race to race, we may still beat him in the championship. At the top end of things, Lewis Hamilton took advantage after Alonso's brake issue saw him finish down in 17th, I think it was, in India. So he's now pulled a gap on Fernando, more than the 2 points. Mark Webber and Jenson Button still mathematically in the title picture, but Button is 67 points, I think it was, behind. So is very much on the cusp of being eliminated after the race here today. Sebastian Vettel cannot defend his title. He is 5th and quite a distance away from the McLaren man at the top. So he will not be reclaiming the trophy after getting it on count back in 2011. Romain Grosjean is 6th, our early pace setter. He's fighting with Rosberg, his teammate Raikkonen, and to an extent Felipe Massa for that 6th spot. Massa and Raikkonen both on the comeback trail after poor starts to the season. Maldonado jumped back into the top 10 with another impressive result in New Delhi. He's ahead of Michael Schumacher by a point. Perez a few points further back, then it's Kobayashi. Then there we are, ahead of Hulk, Ricciardo, Verne, De Resta, and Senna, your point scorers. And then it's the no-point scorers, led by the 2 Caterhams, Kovalainen and Petrov. Peak has jumped Della Rosa, who's only ahead of Glock and Kartikeyan. If you see the post-race results, Kartikeyan's always included because he was obviously the driver for HRT, really, but not in our series. It's obviously me. So Della Rosa is behind at least one Marussia, which is not good, but kind of expected. In the constructors, HRT are 8th, 2 points clear of Force India and 12 clear of Toro Rosso, while at the top end of things, McLaren still didn't manage to seal the constructors' title last time out in India. So once again, this race is an opportunity to clinch that title, which will be the first time in our series that a Red Bull hasn't won it. Red Bull, though, did take the victory in the last race through Vettel, so that's kept them mathematically in the hunt, but they are running out of time. Ferrari are in 3rd, some way away ahead of Lotus, who are in 4th, still fighting with Mercedes. Sauber kind of trying to hold on to their coattails. Then there's Williams, who are quite the distance in front of us in terms of results we might actually get. And as I say, just ahead of Toro Rosso and Force India, while Caterham and Marussia have yet to score points. Now that's where we stand, going into Yas Marina, a circuit that is the original layout still. Obviously, that didn't change until 2021. Clearly trying to block that particular race out of my memory. It'd be fun when we get to talk about that in a few years. And it means that we've still got the awkward triple apex chicane at the end of the second straight. And we've still got the chicane leading up to the hairpin. Well, I personally prefer the modern layout. I think it flows better. It feels nicer to drive. It's a bit quicker. But in this series so far, we had a pretty bang average result for Team Lotus in 2011. But in 2010, we took our first and so far only victory in this series at Abu Dhabi. And comfortably, nobody got anywhere near us driving that Virgin Racing car, even with our own spins and mistakes because of the auto spin curbs and the fact that, as you've probably seen, if you've been watching any episodes of this series, my driving style is pretty aggressive, and these older games are a little less forgiving. But a circuit that actually I can drive all right on these older games, I think. Watch me go and absolutely ruin that. But I think it's still pertinent to do a little bit of practice. Hopefully, though, we can draw a level with Danny Rick and give ourselves a nice battle towards the end of the season. But let's go and do that practice. And while we do, we'll talk about the real world 2012 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Yas Marina was the site of the 18th round of the 2012 season, a race which saw Vettel and Red Bull leading the way in the championships, though Red Bull were closing on the Constructors' Crown for the third season running. Williams brought a new front wing for both drivers to test during practice, finding some pace, but decided to revert to the older spec during the rest of the weekend. Ferrari were also bringing upgrades late in the season, a new front wing and barge boards, for which they were permitted to break curfew on Thursday to fit to their cars. Mercedes continued to evaluate a double DRS design in practice, while Caterham brought extensive changes to stay ahead of Marussia. Practice sessions were once again fairly relaxed affairs with no major incidents or issues. Hamilton would complete the first practice at the top of the timesheets, ahead of Button and Vettel, while Alonso fell in behind his championship rival. Vettel would lead the way in the second session, ahead of Hamilton and Button, with Alonso only managing 7th, and Hamilton would lead the way in the third session, ahead of Button and Vettel once again. Alonso, though, could only manage 8th. Usual teams and drivers would find themselves out at the end of Q1, joined once again by Jean-Eric Vergne and the Toro Rosso, though the Mauritius found themselves splitting the Caterhams rather than just following them. The Q2 elimination zone would include Michael Schumacher, the German only able to take 14th place in the times. Lewis Hamilton would take the pole position ahead of Webber and Vettel. However, the FIA were unable to extract a 1-litre fuel sample from Vettel's car, and he was excluded from qualifying, sending him down to the back of the grid. This elevated Pastor Maldonado to third place, with Kimi Raikkonen in 4th, and gave Alonso just a little bit of hope going into this race. Vettel would choose to start in the pit lane and was joined by Pedro de la Rosa, who found a thread from a rear tyre blanket tangled on his car. Hamilton managed to get away without issue, but behind the Lotus of Kimi Raikkonen got a lightning start, jumping both Webber and Maldonado to run second. His teammate wasn't so lucky. Grosjean caught up in a collision with Senna in both the Force India cars. Hulkenberg was the unluckiest of them all, retiring with damage, while the others were pitted for repairs. Alonso followed Raikkonen's lead and jumped Button and Webber to move into fourth. Vettel had made early moves from the back, passing the Caterhams, Marussias and HRTs, but found himself clipping the back of Senna's Williams, losing a front wing end plate in the process. Rosberg found himself behind the HRT of Carter Kayan, who was experiencing issues with a drop in hydraulic pressure, causing his steering to become heavy. Rosberg, unaware of this, hit the back of the slow-moving HRT and launched his Mercedes over the back of the Indian driver, scattering debris everywhere. The safety car was deployed for the clean-up, with both drivers thankfully unharmed. Vettel found himself forced into a pit stop after swerving to avoid Ricciardo behind the safety car, driving into a polystyrene sign and further damaging his front wing. Racing would resume a few laps later, Hamilton leading Raikkonen while Webber attacked Alonso for third, but the Red Bull was unable to clear the Ferrari. Vettel set about moving forward, clearing the first few cars up to Grosjean. In attempting to pass the Lotus, Vettel went off track and had to give the place back before finally getting by the Frenchman. Hamilton would lead until lap 20 when he suffered a fuel pressure problem and retired, handing the lead to Kimi Raikkonen. Alonso managed to get by Maldonado at the same time, something Webber also attempted. The Australian, however, was unable to get by, the two making contact and the Red Bull spinning off track. Raikkonen would receive fairly regular radio calls from the pit wall about the gap back to Alonso, which led to the iconic "Shut up, I know what I'm doing" from the Finn. Further back, Maldonado would lose third to Button while Webber attempted to pass Massa, colliding with the Ferrari and sending Massa into a spin as he bounced over the curbs. Webber would once again find himself in the wars later on in the race, after Di Resta forced Perez wide into turn 13. As Perez rejoined the circuit, he collided with Grosjean, who in turn collected Mark Webber. The Lotus and the Red Bull both retired, while the Mexican would receive a drive-through penalty. Vettel had been calmly making his way through the pack and was starting to hassle Button in third, who was also hassling Alonso in second. The McLaren and the Red Bull were fighting enough for Alonso to break away and attempt to catch Kimi Raikkonen, with Vettel eventually finding his way past the McLaren. Raikkonen would, however, hang on to take victory, his first since his return to F1, and Lotus's first, or at least Enston Lotus's first, not Lotus's first, if you follow me. Alonso would take second ahead of Vettel, the Spaniard at least making a small gain in the championship. Button would be fourth ahead of Maldonado, Kobayashi, Massa, Senna, Di Resta and Ricciardo, who completed the points. What can we hope for here at Yas Marina? Well, this is a circuit that, despite its more recent changes, is one we know pretty well, and we had an absolutely perfect run back in 2010. However, this HRT is nowhere near as competitive, even if the last round brought us a great performance. Qualifying's been tough for us since the end of 2010, and I can't see it changing much here. I think we've just got to go for our normal spot in P19. Hope we can at least stay in front of a few other back markers.
Sector 3 are good, but 1 and 2 are well off the pace.
Maybe, just maybe, see if we can pull a little bit closer to the established pack with just a couple of rounds left.
Okay, you should be able to get into the next qualifying session easily, so try to get a hot lap in early so we can save the tyres.
Optimism there from engineer Andy as we're in the garage for qualifying at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The team want 14th place, mostly I guess down to the result last time out. It was much the same when we got that second in Singapore. They wanted 12th I think in Japan, and we started 24th. Practice went okay, binned it right at the very end as we were on a better lap, but finished ahead of Massa, which is not really representative. Had a nice little duel with a Caterham, so we got to see their straight line speed up close, and it was faster than us. But I'm anticipating that this is going to be a fairly standard Q1 knockout. But there is an opportunity here, I think. I think if we can just hook up some sectors, really get it right, we might be able to elevate ourselves a few places higher than normal. So let's get out there, get some laps in, and see if we can upset the apple cart. Here then, our fastest lap in Q1.
Moved you up to 5th.
You can see that we're already ahead of our fellow backmarker teams, and actually not too far off the likes of Vern and Ricciardo. So through turn 1, we get the curb a little bit, which almost unsettles the car through, but we make it through 2 and 3 without too much in the way of hassle, heading down to the chicane that in the modern circuit no longer exists, and we're 0.2 of a second down, and nearly a full second off Maldonado. 0.2 down, mainly I think because of clipping that curb and the car going sideways, but we get onto the back straight, having to wrestle it a little bit through the hairpin and dodge a few cars that are on outlaps, heading down now to the chicane in the middle of these 2 DRS zones. It's a case of getting on the brakes at the right time, which we do, so we can take a nice steady run through the first part, try not to unsettle the car on the curbing because it is easily done, and then get straight back out and on the DRS again, heading down to what is these days a long sweeping left hairpin that is, back in 2012, this triple apex chicane. We're 0.3 of a second up here, but 2 seconds off Maldonado. So getting out of Q1 is looking more and more unlikely. The Bollard is the unfortunate victim of us through the couple of corners there where both are lost. But we now run into the hotel section. Again, just trying to get the braking point right, being brave with the DRS through that long right-hander, and we were, to then go under the hotel bridge, bounce the curb a little bit. Peak has jumped us at this point, so we know we need to get a better lap in as we come around the penultimate corner. We run a little wide, which means it's a little late on the throttle, but we get into the final corner. Slingshot it round, gun for the line, light the rears up a bit, but at least it improves our position.
We're nowhere near where we predicted. You're starting in 19th tomorrow.
Traditional spot knocked out in Q1 in 19th, literally just behind Daniel Ricciardo and only about 0.4 of a second off Bruno Senna. We're going quicker on, I think, our 3rd flying lap just before our fuel ran out, and then we just overdrove a little bit in the final sector and lost time. It probably would have been quick enough to get through. Driving quicker on our final lap, and then we got blocked in the last sector by none other than Pastor Maldonado. Williams playing team games there. But we're knocked out with Ricciardo, Kovalainen, Petrov, Pete, Glock and Della Rosa. Decent kind of pace for the people around us, as you can see. Only a couple of tenths off Vern and a couple of tenths off Senna and Ricciardo. So we're in amongst it. That's a good sign. Hopefully, we can do exactly what we did in India, get a good start and move forward. It's unlikely to rain here, obviously. But maybe, just maybe, we can try and replicate our form in India for at least a decent result, even if it's not points. But let's see what happens as we cross over to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. In the garage then for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of 2012, P19, as you'd kind of expect, really, for this car. Still feel like I got a bit of pace. There might be a little bit more to come. But before we talk about our hopes for the race, let's take a look at the grid order. Sebastian Vettel took pole position ahead of Mark Webber, with Fernando Alonso in 3rd, Schumacher 4th, Perez 5th, championship leader Hamilton down in 6th, alongside Button. Another impressive top 10 there for Maldonado in 8th. And there's Raikkonen and Di Resta, they're getting a top 10 there. Massa in 11th, ahead of Rosberg, Hulkenberg, Kobayashi, Vern, Senna and Grosjean down in 17th. A bad day for the Lotus man once again. Ricciardo got knocked out in Q1 with us there in 19th, ahead of Kovalainen, Petrov, Peak, Glock and Della Rosa. And the team, at least in race trim, think that 18th is, enough. Which is nice to see. But like I say, I feel like I've got a little bit more pace here. We were only a few tenths of a second off getting out of Q1, which hasn't happened all that often. this season. We've certainly had close calls, but not being able to get across the line, as it were, to try and get out of the Q1 elimination zone. And when we did in Singapore, maybe? I think it was, actually. I think that was partly down to cars crashing out in quali and a couple of fortunate breaks for us, probably to do with traffic. I genuinely think we had actual pace to fight with sort of 16th, 17th, 18th. And for that reason, after a great race in India as well, I really want to try and build on that and let's have a really positive end to the season, because it's been a season punctuated by penalties. Some of them deserved, some of them maybe a little sensitive, and one of them really stupid, crossing a white line on pit exit. Just really dumb, basically. But I think if we can have another clean, tidy, consistent race here, we might be able to have a decent one. I think points might still be too far away for this particular track because it's going to be dry, long straights, 2 DRS zones, a lot of fighting, and I think that was part of the saving grace, is that we were quick through sector 1 and it was intermediate conditions in India. I think that's what kept us away from the chasing pack. This time around, I think I'm just going to go for somewhere in the mid-pack, so let's say P15 as an objective. Hopefully, yeah, we can make up a few spots in the first few corners and maybe weasel our way into the top 10 like we've done many times this season and last as well, actually. But then just try and be clean, be consistent, try not to make any mistakes, and see if we can come away with a decent result before our first visit to the circuit of the Americas next time out, and Brazil at the end of the season. But we need to finish this race first, so let's get out there to the grid for the 2012 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. All Red Bull front row. There's Ricciardo, just a few ahead of us. In fact, right next to us, there we are. And you can just about see Della Rosa in the background. Right. The lights are going. We're about ready to go in Abu Dhabi. That's the 5th one. Away we go. Traditional sort of slow getaway. Kovalainen absolutely raced away at the start. It's a short run into turn 1. Both Caterhams in front of us, but we can dive up the inside and also look to the inside of Ricciardo. Everybody gets backed up a little through turn 2. We avoid a little bit of contact, avoid some more, and we've gained another couple of spots. Grosjean's had a decent start here, but we're ahead of both Toro Rossos and Bruno Senna. A little bit of wheel banging. There's a car wide there. That's Paul Di Resta. He's off the circuit. We go into the back of Kobayashi. All a little bit frenetic in the first few, but we're up to 13th. A decent start. Grosjean's followed us through. He's chasing down here. He's going to be much quicker than us along here. Both him and Kobayashi are going to move to our inside. Kobayashi, though, cut off by Grosjean. Grosjean breaks early enough for us to just dive up the inside. A bit deep into the chicane, but we get away with it. We'll get us on the exit, though. Lotus is so much quicker than we are. Let's try and stay in his slipstream for a moment. Quite slow into these chicanes, as it turns out. Sector 3's been my jam so far in this race weekend, so we'll dive back up the inside of Romain Grosjean there. Like I said, when we were sat in the garage, points I think it's going to be tough to come by as we get a warning out. A little early on that corner. Points are going to be tough to come by here. But clean and tidy is what we want. Couple of moments in the first lap, but we're through it and we're in P13. No DRS yet, but you can just see how much faster they are behind us. Try and do what we did in India, just sort of brake a touch later, maybe just stay slightly off the racing line, and the AI don't seem to want to attack too bravely. Grosjean at bay for now. I think I'm close enough for DRS. Grosjean will be though. Not close enough for DRS. Here comes Romain Grosjean. Kobayashi's behind us. I thought he was in front of us, but there goes Kamui. Again, late on the brakes. And we can just block past our way through. Once again though, Rosberg et al. Up ahead, not exactly running away. Here comes Grosjean again, and once again we'll just position the car nicely. I'm leading my own little queue, which goes down to 18th place Danny Rick. Again, just sort of holding the car on the racing line. Oops, the AI in F1 2012. Grosjean too hard this time because I'll get him back into the braking zone.
This is turning into a solid drive. We're 5 positions up on where we were expecting to finish.
Came a little bit wrong there. Does already feel like the rears are going. Force his way through there as the track begins to tuck in. That's not a good place to go. Didn't move, just held my line. Grosjean's back past him. Just the rear a little there. Grosjean once again trying to take a look into the penultimate corner. Just in his way. These tyres already gone, but Grosjean's now dropped off again. It's Bruno Senna once again. I just spooked Grosjean through there. We've got to go to lap 12 as Senna's looking in a really unusual spot for a pass, but we
think the car behind is running on full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
Give him enough racing room and we managed to hold the Williams off. Grosjean back with him again. Way off the back of the few cars we were chasing briefly up ahead. I think I've got pace to get back in front of these guys if I was to go early, but it's feeling a little bit dicey already.
The guys have run the numbers. Senna will be pitting within the next 2 laps.
And I look to the outside, we look back just as he was flying by, or about to, and we just sort of stuck our line and once again nearly lose the rear. Nearly let the Williams through. We're really struggling at the moment. Rothenberg's in though. We make it past Nico Hulkenberg. We do not. So that's an early stop, or this is really about when the options are supposed to run to, rather than lap 12, which is what we're supposed to run to.
You need to to increase the gap. You're within 1 second of the car behind. He will use DRS.
Not close enough to halt to get DRS, I don't think. Senna goes to the outside. He'll lose a bit of his front wing for his trouble. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne, who hits the back of us. To defend the inside, and Jean-Eric's gone into the back of us. It's now whether he holds everybody else up behind him. I think cars are pitting.
The car behind has some minor damage to his front wing. Doesn't look too serious.
Another thing happened to Schumacher in India.
The car behind is on standard reds.
Senna going to the inside. Ricardo's going to go with him. Close so quickly that you move across to defend and they're already there. They somehow managed to squeeze through a gap. Back in front of them both. Under severe pressure here. Just trying to hold on to this position now, and again we are. We're also ahead of Ricciardo, which is vital for our personal rivalry. It'd be nice to go into the last two 3 for 3. Give us an opportunity to try and beat him. Didn't think it was possible a couple of rounds ago, if I'm honest. Line through the hairpin seems to have laid Senna a little bit. He's going to have a go off circuit. There's definitely not a gap there. Grosjean's got back ahead of Ricciardo. Inside to the chicane. Once again, just later on the brakes, clip the curb there a little bit though. Heart in mouth moment.
The car behind has minor front wing damage.
Which way is Senna going to go this time? He's going to go to the inside. Well, kind of let him. Grosjean's going to go one way as well. I think they're both going to stay in front of me here, you know? Or are they? Latest on the brakes. Full Danny Rick manoeuvre to get up the inside. Senna runs wide, trying to get back past us. Grosjean goes one way, then the other. Just sort of hold the line.
Box, box, box.
Grosjean's in, Kobayashi's in, I guess. There's 23 left in this race. Somebody's stayed out around us. Where's Ricciardo? He's going into the final corner. It's going to be tight. Oh, we're held behind Grosjean and Kobayashi. I think Ricciardo's going to get out in front of us, you know, as we drive into the back of Kobayashi on the pit exit. We're going to race him off the pits, you know. Ricciardo's jumped us.
So look after your tyres.
Maldonado is the man that was out, so we're back up to P18. We're just ahead of Paul de Resta.
Pedro is 4 places in front of you.
We're racing Kobayashi off pit lane. Daniel Ricciardo currently behind Pedro, but it's whether Pedro can keep him behind. Unlikely with DRS. I've got DRS and DRS has just gone past us.
Within the next 2 laps. You're 3 places behind Pedro.
Ricciardo's through, he's gone. We're going to lose out to Ricciardo once again. As of course he ends up De La Rosa's just spun Grosjean. We nearly go into the back of Kamui Kobayashi. The yellow flag says no overtaking. I think we were already round the Sauber, and we were. Pedro playing an absolutely brilliant team game there, but he's struggling. He should be in this lap, I reckon. There goes De La Rosa. In. He's just leaving the pits. Petrov's in as well, I think.
3 places above our expected result.
So we can beat them off this long pit lane. We can. We're back into 13th, but Ricardo has managed to jump us, which is the one we really didn't want to lose. He's going to scamper off and away in P12 up the road. Actually, the one side pull, the rest is going to go as well. Again, we're just going to have to send it through the middle of the two of them, and we make it. Holding P13 at the moment. Comes the Sauber again.
Keep on him, he might make a mistake.
Later on the brakes and up the inside. Actually looking this way and that. Going to look into turn 1. Nose in front, but again later on the brakes, and we can just sort of sweep around the Sauber.
We think the car behind is running on full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
2012 Sauber was a brilliant car. That's why in the real world it took an awful lot of podiums for a midfield car essentially. Far and away quicker than this. To defend astutely as Kobayashi goes. The rest is going to go as well, you feel. I think the rest of though has just gone into the back of us. He has, but hasn't lost his front wing. We can run deep, trying to keep Kamui behind us. We do, at least for now. There's a lot of laps left in this race to be holding these guys off. Oh, Kobayashi hits the wheel. Just a little bit of front wing, I think. He hasn't lost it all. No, he's not. He still has a front wing. Another lap, another run for Kobayashi. He goes to the outside. Senna's going to get here as well. Later on the brakes, right to the inside. Once again, back through. A little contact in these fights, but nothing that's caused a penalty. A bit of damage for Verne. A couple of front wing end plates gone, but nothing untoward. We're fighting as fairly and robustly as we can. Comes Kobayashi again, another lap, another attack for the Sauber. We'll just wiggle a little bit. Give him pause for thought, and he's not close enough in the braking zone, and we'll sweep across him a little bit. It does compromise our line. Here comes the Sauber. He's going to get stitched up here by Bruno Senna, you feel. Not sure where the leaders are. Looks like they're only just coming around the final corners. I don't know if they will today, you know. Or at least not for a while yet. Kobayashi to the outside. Senna's going to be here very soon as well.
Trying to create a gap. He's running full revs, maximum power.
We're far too far back to fight Kobayashi. I had to think about it there. I think we might have lost Kamui here. I get the DRS, but as you can see, doesn't really do an awful lot.
We're faster than the guy ahead in Sector 1. Let's see if we can use that to our
I think
advantage.
that's 13th gone. It was a valiant effort. Bruno Senna's turn to attack us this lap. Again, just sort of sitting roughly around the racing line. Had to move out a little bit as he tried to force his way past off track. Hold him off. Be nice to kind of hang around this position because they did want P15 at the start. Like many other occasions in this series, we're fighting for null point once again, but fighting with cars that are far faster than we are, and that's kind of the point, I think, of this entire series. We were spoiled in 2010 with how competitive we could be in the Virgin Racing VR01. Really came back down to earth with a bump in 2011 in that Team Lotus car. Threw away a couple of decent results ourselves. This season, yeah, we have thrown away a couple of decent results, but we've lucked into two and in the last round. So drove well to take 9th, and we're driving well at the moment to take what could be 14th. We're going to try and hold this position. There's been a couple of occasions like it this season where we've driven valiantly for 15th or something. There's going to be far more times up ahead that we do something similar in a Williams or a Sauber. A Williams goes past us and whoa, Grosjean, no idea where he came from. He tapped the back of the Lotus and once again get right up to the apex to pass Senna, who's been turned, I think, there by Grosjean. Romain Grosjean turns Bruno Senna. Grosjean looking all over the rear. Run wide. That could invite the Lotus in, but we to the apex. Where's Grosjean going? We move one way, sort of move back to the racing line. We've got Grosjean and Paul de Resta.
Looks like the car ahead is trying to create a gap. He's running full rev.
Verno was also trying, but we again, as we've done earlier in the race, just sort of duck through a gap that appears. Just to regain our position. Grosjean straight into the back of us. As we follow the curve in the road. Look at where the leaders are. It's Red Bull 1-2 at the moment as well, so I feel like with McLaren 3 and 5, so I feel like that Constructors win is going to be put on ice again, at least until Kota. Red Bull doing everything in their power to try and pull it back. I think Senna's back with us as well. Was that a Red Bull? Oh, Grosjean dives to the inside. I think he's lost another bit of front wing.
With our overtaking, we don't want to be given a penalty.
I'm given a little telling off for that. Move back across, yes, but it's just felt like I was confused by the
He's not racing you for position.
sheer speed at which Grosjean came up to us and dove up the inside. Vettel, let's try not to cost him the win. We have been lapped. Just trying to work out where the leaders were. Vettel looks like he's way ahead of everybody as I run wide. Nudge on Grosjean to then dive back up the inside. And they're all
approaching one of the Red Bulls.
backing off for Mark Webber. So I Again, that kind of gives us a little bit of breathing room. Rester's now ahead. I think he's taken advantage of Webber lapping Grosjean and Verne to dive through the pair of them. We're going to kind of hold Webber up a little there. Can get me on the straight. Should be quick enough to do it without me having to back off.
Up to speed now. Blue flag no longer applies.
Now I've planted my flag on this P14 and I'm not letting go without a fight. The Rester now runs into the back of us. The other AI come up at such a speed they don't really know what to do with themselves. All cars behind me, which means if we lose these positions we're slipping to 18th. That was a little bit of a move, I'll give it that. Which is I'm not going to fight the rest too hard. Grosjean's trying to go around the outside of us again. And the rest did get alongside heading into that chicane, but we managed to just outbrake and go round.
Okay, we need you to make way for the car behind.
Into the braking zone, and we'll hopefully be able to let Lewis through here. Without letting Paul the Rester through. There goes the McLaren. The Rester's still going to be on us. Tries to go on the outside as we just drift to the racing line, but at least we didn't have to back off. I want to test the theory that the 3-strike rule doesn't apply here, but we lose it.
The car ahead is trying to create a gap.
Alonso's through.
Full revs, maximum power.
Verne's through, Grosjean's through, De Rester's through, Senna's through, we're down to 18th.
Let the car immediately behind through. You're not racing him.
Hello. Grosjean trying to wait for Alonso to go through has caused him and Verne to slow up. We're back past Grosjean at least briefly. Just about draw level with Verne through 1. Try and hold it around the outside at 2, so we're on the inside for 3. Doesn't quite work. But we're right with Jean-Eric. Between the two French drivers here. Right up behind Verne. We'll get DRS. I don't know if it's going to do us any favours. Because of how slow we are. Grosjean. We have DRS. It doesn't make a difference. Again, I think Verne's going to get away from us. Try and hold Grosjean to the outside. Will we at least get the Lotus back? We will. We'll run deep, but we will get him back. I think that's Verne gone, and we lost Paul de Rester and Bruno Senna. Silly mistake to cost us a position there. There's our little warn coming to the end of this one. And we're about to start our final lap. We've got one more lap to try and hold off Romain Grosjean. I think he's just been lapped by Button. He's about to come and lap us. So let's see if we can, once again, not lose too much time letting the McLaren through. Back off a little bit.
Back up to speed. Wave blue conditions no longer apply.
Button on our inside. Grosjean's trying to go around the outside, but he runs off the circuit. No contact there, so not a problem, and we should also now get DRS from Button. Grosjean running wide has possibly granted us P17, which It doesn't sound like a lot, and as high as 13th. Would have been 12th as well if we hadn't been jumped by Daniel Ricciardo in the pit stops. We got jumped by Kobayashi in the pit stops as well, but managed to get back in front of him, and jumped by Grosjean too. First time this season I think we've been held in the pits. But Ricciardo jumped us after we'd held him off for so long. Maldonado dropped out, so we regained our 13th spot. Fought valiantly to hold off Kobayashi for a long time, and then Kobayashi got through. Sebastian Vettel takes victory. So 1-2 for Red Bull, I think possibly to hold the champagne for McLaren one more race. Kobayashi eventually got past us, and we just fought for 14th until a couple of laps ago, got on the curb too early on the power, span the car, lost positions. If it wasn't for Vernon Grosjean having to beat, or Grosjean to beat, getting lapped by Alonso, that would hold him up, we wouldn't have got back in front of Grosjean. But P17, there we are then, 17th. I think I can take comfort in the fact that the drive itself, apart from that one sort of silly mistake at the end, actually wasn't too bad. We were defending well. Yeah, there was a little bit of contact with a few people as they were coming into the back of us, but we defended well. I think we looked all right. Much like India, kind of always felt like we were fighting a losing battle, but pushed as hard as we could to try and keep our position. Didn't manage to hold 13th or 14th in the end, but we come home P17, which is higher than the team expected, and we come home ahead of Romain Grosjean just. But at the top end of things, it is Vettel from Webber, from Hamilton, Alonso and Button, your top 5. Perez took 6th with Schumacher, Massa, Raikkonen and Rosberg completing the top 10. Hülkenberg didn't make the points. He finishes 11th, quite a distance behind Rosberg and a fair amount ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, who took 12th. Kobayashi was 13th ahead of Senna, De Resta, Verne. That clutch that we were fighting for so long, that I really think we probably should have come home in front of. There we are, 17th ahead of Grosjean, then it's Petrov, Kovalainen, De La Rosa finished ahead of Glock and Peak and past Maldonado. Didn't finish. What does that mean to all the stand-ins then? Lewis Hamilton leads the championship by 16 points going into the final 2 rounds of the season, so there's only 50 points left. Mark Webber 42 back and on the cusp of being eliminated. Jenson Button can no longer win the title, he's 4th. Vettel, we already knew, was counted out in 5th, and it's Grosjean ahead of Rosberg. Massa jumps up to 8th ahead of Kimi Raikkonen as Perez and Schumacher both jump Maldonado into the top 10. Quite tight for that bottom end of the top 10. Kobayashi's 13th. We hold 14th because Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Verne, De Resta and Senna didn't score, so it's no changes there. And then, again, the no-point scorers, the normal at the back. Kovalainen and Petrov, Peak, De La Rosa still ahead of Glock, and then Kartikeyan, who's not going to drive in 2012. In the Constructors, 68 points, the gap between McLaren and Red Bull, which means that mathematically still could be lost if McLaren double DNF and Red Bull manage to 1-2 the next 2 races. It's looking more and more likely that it's going to be McLaren, but you never know in this game. We've seen stranger things. Ferrari in 3rd, they can't win the Constructors' title. They could possibly usurp Red Bull with a couple of good results, but they really need things to go their way. Lotus still ahead of Mercedes, although that gap is not very big at all, just the 12 points. Sauber 30-odd behind as well, so they're still kind of in the hunt. Williams in 7th, they're very much in their own little bubble, not able to catch Mercedes, and we're probably not able to catch them unless we were to win the next 2 rounds. Again, unlikely. Force India still behind us by 2, Toro Rosso is still behind us by 12, and then Caterham and Marussia still without points. That was Abu Dhabi. Again, I got to take the positives from that race, I think. Apart from that mistake, and unfortunately getting jumped in the pit stop phase, Ricciardo jumped us and then we got we got done actually in the pits, although I'm not sure why. First time this season that's happened. Happened a lot in 2011. We pitted in the lead of a queue, and every single one of them would be let out before us. But by the by, I think we take the positives. We held on to P13 in the first instance for a long period of time. Held on to P13 for quite a bit after as well. And when Kobayashi did get by, we continued holding P14 until one silly mistake near the end. It was never going to be points. And we didn't quite make our own personal objective, but we beat the team objective. And that's always a silver lining when we really struggled to hit those objectives this season just because of this car being, well, this car. So I will take P17 quite happily. I think we did all right in that race, and I kind of feel that bodes well for the final two. Our first visit to the circuit of the Americas in this series, is next up, and then it's Brazil to close the season. Two circuits I know pretty well at this point that haven't really changed, or haven't changed at all, I don't think, since 2012. So, unlike Abu Dhabi, where we've still got to navigate the old layout, I'm so used to driving the new layout now. The next two should be a case of just getting in and getting on with them. But thank you so much for watching this one from Abu Dhabi. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. You know the drill by now. I shall see you for the next one. Take care. Bye for now.